It's all about what we think we want, not only now, but in the future, right? In
Yeah,
terms of our home.
and also as we are learning, it isn't really what we want as much as sort of the group that we were born into in society
The tribe.
with our age
That
groups and
group. Yeah.
what they call the demographic,
Yeah, the
essentially.
generation that you're in,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And, because there are so many different generations that are driving forces throughout our culture right now, the folks at the Kitchen and Bath Show have on display this very cool exhibit. It's almost like a theater in the round with these containers, almost like these moving containers
Yeah,
that people
but when
use.
you say that, they're huge.
They're
They're
huge,
like what you would find in a
like a
shipping
loft,
yard.
almost like
Yeah.
a loft
Yeah.
size.
The
And
size
in
of a bedroom,
And
basically.
here we are at the center of this kitchen and bath trade show, the biggest in the country in Chicago. And on display are these 5 different vignettes about telling the story of what different consumers are going to want, are going to need based on their age, their psyche, their income, and all these other driving forces. And this really cool group called Sphere Trending looked at all that, right? They kind of picked our brains.
They really
Got
did.
it?
I guess they aggregate information and they get all these great statistics to kind of help brands and consumers figure out what's going on.
I mean,
Right?
like from Target to the different automobile folks and so on, and it's all come together in the kitchen and bath world as a design too. So they first get the facts and then they make it look pretty. So with us is Mandi Mankvitz, who is with Sphere Trending. So thanks for being here, Mandy.
Thank you for having me.
And we were talking to you about how you're great at cocktail parties because you know everything about
She
everybody.
really does.
A little bit about a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know,
I want you on my Pictionary team.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
Right?
we're great at
Totally,
Pictionary.
I bet.
Oh
Yeah.
my
we
God!
are.
So
Right.
talk about the research that got all this going. I mean, you spent a lot of time. You read how many hundreds of
We read about
magazines?
450 different, subscribe to 450 different publications each month, and different services and conferences, and just anything we can get our hands on, we read and kind of absorb and
to get into our mind.
organize into all of these buckets of who these people are, and then we have a design group that we take about 75,000 plus pictures a year. We try and spot all over the country and do all sorts of trade shows and try and spot in Europe, and then put the two together, and in this case, boom, you get containers.
And then this information is used to go where, so our listeners understand. So brands would hire you, for example, to kind of learn about what the audience is interested in, correct?
Major manufacturers, brands, retailers hire us to help them better understand the consumer, what the consumer's desires and needs are, and then what that looks like in product, and maybe even right down to the details and color and finish that this consumer desires, and really how to put those two together to get the solution. So when that consumer walks into a retailer, they see it.
I go to Target and I go, wow, that's a really cool throw pillow. Chances are you guys kind of factored in why it's that color and why it looks in that shape.
For
and all
each
that.
client, it's different.
Right.
It might be that area, or it might be, a marketing piece that went into that, or some information that went into, how retail is laid out, or how the consumer wants to shop your website, or if it's a brand, it might be, different components of a product and how to make the selection more personalized to the consumer. So we have a broad array of how we can apply that information that we gather, and then can funnel it into the right channels.
I mean, you guys are really a think tank because you're getting
Yes.
into our psyche.
It's funny
And-
you say that. That's how I have us listed on LinkedIn as a think
yeah,
tank.
you are a think tank, and it's so intriguing. So explain to everyone why 5 groups and what are these different generations? Who
Well,
are we?
Well, there's 5 key generations. The first one we call digital from birth, but they're not represented here because they're the children, so they're represented kind of throughout the containers in different ways. We're showcasing 5 containers. We have 2 in the Gen Now age group, which is 15 to 34, and they're 84 million. So that's a huge group of consumers. So we decided to have 2 containers for them, one for the younger portion who happens to be a single man named Mason, and then one for the young married couple, Tala and Daniel, to really showcase 2 different ways they are affecting the home industry today. One is a young, very fluid, ready for transition type of single person, and then a married couple really beginning their first home formation years.
Which, by the way, 2013 is going to be big, right?
Yes. From 2013 to 2018, there will be more first-time homeowners than ever before.
Because of that generation group.
They're huge.
Wow.
I mean, just enormous,
so
powerhouse.
advertisers are going to definitely target this group.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
So they're a tough group to target. They have lots of creative needs, and they've grown up with endless cable television shows and design shows and access to the internet and information that has never been had before. So figuring out exactly what they want takes a little more work. You can't just put them all in one bucket anymore.
Right.
Then you have the next generation, the X generation.
Generation X, they're a little smaller. They're 43 million, and they're your 35 to 44-year-olds, and they're kind of stuck in starter home generation. They've been the first ones that were affected by divorce, and then 2 working parents, so latchkey kids, and then they had a little bit of recession issues in the 70s, and now back at it again. They finally get married and have kids and buy a house, and boom, second time recession for them. And so they're really learning how to make do with what they have and learn how to trade down in one area so they can trade up in another, and really kind of getting back to old school rules with their families.
Well,
they're
survivors, probably, right?
Yeah. They're very pragmatic.
You know what, doggone it, I want to hold them in my arms because I feel bad about them. They're going to make it.
Well, they're bouncing back.
Yeah, they are.
And I love that they're creating new rules because they're not going to let it happen again.
No.
The old rules are coming back in their new life.
Right.
And then you have the Zoomers, no longer boomers, but why is it a Zoomer?
Because they're done with that baby part. They're done being baby boomers. Most of their children have left the nest. I might have that stray college kid coming back home maybe for a little while, giving them a little help. But really, if you think about it at age 60, if 1 in 8 Zoomers might live to be 100, you have 40 years left in which to Zoom through life. And they're very active, more active than previous generations. They're enjoying life. They're changing the rules. They're kind of in the second midlife crisis stage where it's okay, now we have all this time left and we can, move on and try new things, have new hobbies, ride a mountain bike, try golf, kite surfing, whatever you like.
But you're saying there's a certain commercial that you love that speaks to that.
We love the Toyota Venza commercial where you have the adult child who's home and she's on Facebook and she is, oh, my parents have no friends. And well, as it turns out, they're all out riding mountain bikes and having a great time, the parents, and she's the lonely one at home. So.
And what's that age group, essentially? What are the numbers?
45 to 65. Right?
45 to 65. 80
okay.
million strong.
And
so
then you've got the prime timers, and they're in their 60s, but they're not going away fast. They're still feeling healthy and thriving.
They're still feeling healthy and thriving. They're learning how to, plan to age in place and stay where they're at. They really want to still feel valued and like they're contributing. So they're helping care for grandchildren or they're volunteering. We're seeing record numbers of volunteers and really doing things in their community. And they want to remain active so they can stay in their homes and continue to enjoy the rest of their years in a much more beautiful and interesting way.
And one of the really interesting things you were sharing with us earlier is how the young generation, the Gen Now, is kind of mirrored with the other really
the
Zoomers, because they're both like within 80, 84 million people, but they're a reflection of each other. They both want to be that.
They look to each other, too. You have the Zoomers who are now learning, hey, all of these young guys with the social media and the technology, we need to learn from them. Like, oh, all the young kids are doing it. Next thing you know, they're learning from each other. And you have the Gen Now who has really respected that generation, those parents that raised them that were, very nurturing and very involved in their lives and almost helicopter parents almost. So they do respect each other in an interesting sort of way. Mm-hmm. And they do learn from each other and kind of share some attributes.
It feels like I have a couple of kids. It feels like my relationship with my kids. You know, it's
right.
Because I think I represent in my family those two groups.
Yeah. And as it relates to the home improvement space, which is what this show is all about, it's more than the psychology, but we as consumers can expect to see these messages and these vibes as we shop for things for our home and as we make decisions for our kitchen, for our bath, for our living room, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These attributes affect how we see design. So as you're looking at the containers and you see the really eclectic Gen Now container that's really borrowing a piece from this and a piece from the kitchen and the dining room and putting it all together because they want to entertain in that space. So they've taken what used to be 2 or 3 spaces and kind of combined it into one great entertainment space. They're redefining what the rooms really are doing. No longer is it a dining room, it's an entertaining room. Mm-hmm. This is where I might have my wine and I might have a microwave and I might have, a spice bar because this is where I really want to be. I don't want to need to separate my rooms any longer. So we're seeing this happen across the generations, making new rules really as we kind of enter in this post-recession
And
time.
it feels like the labels that you're giving us are not as restrictive. Because who wants to be labeled?
That's what I was going to say. It doesn't feel like, condescending in the way that you're identifying trends and that makes us forced into
like you're putting us
boxes.
in a box. Exactly.
It feels like we're all kind of interrelating and contributing to what it is.
And growing.
And then you're reporting on it.
And we're living and improving. I mean, it isn't like, okay, you're dead now.
Right.
No.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's being aware that there's so many ways, so many facets to look at in these consumers and really to look at them as individuals.
As possibilities.
Exactly.
Awesome. So your website again is a No, hang on a
Yeah,
second.
spheretrending.com.
Spheretrending.com. Yeah, and then we have more information on you. And we're going to put the pictures of these containers on our
website.
They're
website.
awesome.
They
Thank you
really
so
are.
much.
At yourhomewizards.com. So Mandi Mankvitz, thank you. Really, what a great.
What a great
We're going to
thing.
have you back on the show because you
I
really
would
are
love to.
in the pulse of all these cool things.
Yeah,
I'm
we
looking
love
forward to
we
it.
love it. You're now a regular.
Sign me up.
Congratulations.
Thank you so
All
much.
All right, continuing as we kind of pick the brains of all the friends who are here at this kitchen and bath show, we're going to talk with a very good friend of ours who's a kitchen and bath designer.
Wait, you're not talking about the incredible Jan Ledger, right?
The gal who worked in our kitchen, the City Kitchen.
Let's
That's
see.
next. Home Wizards continuing after this.